Welcome back to the Gun Collective podcast. My name is Jon Patton. I have an amazing guest, and we go way, way back. Joe Hajny, LMT Defense. Get ready for it. First, we've got sponsors, blackoutcoffee.com/TGC. Buy our Tenacity blend, because if you want to support us and you like coffee, that's a good way to go. It's low on acidity, got a little bit of extra caffeine in there for your morning boost. Oh, so good. Mwah. And they also have teas and hot cocoa. The code is TGC over at blackoutcoffee.com/TGC. And that same code, TGC, works at vertex.com. Get yourself an EDC bag, a gun bag, get yourself stackable storage, some good EDC-minded apparel. Like they make this stuff for people that carry guns. Please go do that, because we get a little kickback and it keeps the freaking lights on. Thank you so much for supporting us. Joe, how did we get linked up? This was probably 2013, 2014. This is a very long time. By the way, I would like to point out that Joe, like, if I shaved my beard back to what it was back in the day, we could play each other's stunt doubles if it was blurry enough.
Right. So it had to have been 13. It rolled into 14, but it was 20. Probably 2012 was when things got started.
Okay.
So I was working for a little local gun shop, and we got tired of doing and this is like before the 2012 gun craze, Sandy Hook and all that stuff.
Right.
And we got tired of just selling Glocks and Rock River Arms and, the Bushmasters, because none of the brands existed that we have today. Like Cobalt didn't exist.
No.
Hajny Defense didn't exist. All these brands didn't exist. So it was just a couple of the big ones, and that was it. So we got tired of that, wanted to make our own. And we had a really brilliant young machinist programmer, a guy that just was amazing with CNC machines.
Okay.
And we were like, how can we differentiate ourselves between let's say like Sun Devil or Delton or something like that?
Oh my gosh.
Right. I'm throwing some old names, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, man.
How can we differentiate ourselves when making a carbine or a strip lower? And it was with engraving. So what I did was I just went through and, found YouTubers at the heart of YouTube. So you were Chaos Clarity 311, I think was your original.
Yeah, I was under the. I hadn't even started TGC until
TGC
that was 2015 when that launched. So
it was you. We did one for VSO Gun Channel.
Oh my gosh.
Four Guys Guns.
Yeah.
The righty over there.
Yeah, yeah.
We made a handful, and when I reached out to you, so basically it started with hitting up the YouTube about, and like hopefully there was an email address that I could contact you, and so it was basically, hey, free gun coming your way, no charge. We just want to show you what we can do. Maybe you'll talk about it, maybe you won't, but it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. What do you want it to be? We're gonna put your logo on the side, and then you were like,
that conversation. Oh man,
that was how the beginnings of our relationship.
So on my side of that, I felt like I conned Joe into setting me up with a fully custom, and this was, to my, as far as I remember, this was the first custom for me gun that anybody agreed to put together for me. So that was like, oh my gosh, I made it. This is gonna be amazing, right? And then he says, you can get whatever serial number you want. And I went, oh boy. And I start texting all my buddies, and what do we do? And the serial number, and it's hanging up right over here. I'm never going to get rid of the damn thing, because it's got my face on the side of it. My old logo was my face.
Yeah.
So the serial number on that gun is Thunderfuck. It's honestly, it's a great gun. You guys did a great job. Yeah. It's wearing some different furniture over the years, but it's still a great gun.
I remember your ask, though. It was very interesting because we were kind of in the infancy of understanding what the ATF would allow us to serialize.
I remember that.
You can't do you can do letters and numbers, and that's about it. You can't do characters and stuff like that, like an exclamation point. You can't do that. So you're like, can it be a swear word? And I'm like, yeah. I, there's nothing saying it can't be. Like, I'm like, as I'm going through the ATF like documents, like, can we use profanity against the government? And I think, didn't you run into some trouble with the lady that transferred it or something? Didn't she have
So
a heart attack when it came in?
I was working at a very like sort of old school conservative gun shop in Lancaster County, PA, and I don't think this woman has ever. So there was like a lady that does the books. I ran it by my boss, and I said, "Kent, are you okay with this going on your books? You know, like this is a thing.
Is
You
that
gotta, you
right?
get, yeah, like it's gonna be there."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, what is it?" And I told him, and then he forgot to warn the lady that checked the guns in, and she's like, Joe, what is it?" My boss's name was Joe. She's like, "Joe, what is this?"
This isn't a
Oh,
real gun. This can't be. There's supposed to be
that's so
numbers.
good.
Yeah, because that's what it is. It's just thunderfuck. There's no numbers in it, I don't think.
No, none.
No, it was just thunderfuck. And that was amazing to write that down in our serial log. And eventually later that year, I think it was or the beginning of the new year, to give that over to the ATF as this is one of the ones that we did. Like this is a legit like serial number that exists that the ATF has to keep track of.
And it's
So
sitting right over there.
yeah.
That's kind of the origin story. How the hell did you end up at LMT? I mean, that you know,
Whoa.
the company
So
you were at was in Iowa, and
yes,
LMT's in Iowa, so
yeah.
there's some similarity there. What
So,
happened?
I'm from the Quad Cities region of Iowa, Illinois. So if you're ever on I-80 and you're going from Illinois to Nebraska or Colorado or Indiana or something like that, you're gonna drive right through our town. Um, in this area at the time, Rock River Arms, Armalite, Springfield Armory, Les Bear, the Rock Island Arsenal, Rock Island Auction, and LMT. So powerhouse of AR
Wow,
manufacturers,
wow.
um, and weapons manufacturers with Les Bear and obviously the Arsenal does a lot of manufacturing on small arms. All the M21 EBR projects. I think the Mark 12 with the Navy started somewhere in there. Um, the M4 improvement project started on the Rock Island Arsenal, and then obviously there's the howitzers, the 198, the 777, the 109. A lot of the parts are made for there on the Rock Island Arsenal. So big manufacturing community. Plus there's John Deere, so a lot of manufacturing in the area.
I honestly had no idea that there were that many companies in that
Mhm.
small little area. Also,
Probably all
uh,
within like 25 miles.
so last year, we talked about me swinging through there.
Hmm.
I am absolutely going to do that. I'm planning to do that this year because I-80 happens to be right where,
Yeah.
like, I drive past you to get to Brownells.
Brownells is about 2 hours from LMT. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to. I have
You,
to stop by.
even if it's for a casual visit, you got to come in and see the plant. See, I mean, so LMT, well, I'll guess I'll finish real quick.
Sure, sure, sure.
So went from the little gun shop that questionable ownership at the time, and it ran into some morale things. One thing about me and my what I do in the industry is I'm big on morale or morals, and doing what's right for the consumer, doing what's right, being an honest guy, and not really talking in circles. I hate traditional salesmen, and I hate the fact that I'm even in sales because of what kind of salespeople are out there. It's a dirty industry, and my background is in product development. Going through market research and doing that kind of stuff. I really like doing that, but sales is much more of a readily available job. Marketing, much more of a readily available job. So went from the gun shop and went and worked at the Rock Island Auction House doing acquisitions. So cut my teeth learning about old Winchesters, Henrys, Colts, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And then it just wasn't for me. I needed back into the modern gun age, and at the time had then done some custom gun work, some Cerakote work with Armalite, and had done some custom gun projects for him that ended up at SHOT Show and was part of I think a CSAS project. Eventually, the product development manager, Walt Hasser, at the time had reached out and said, "Hey, you interested in a job? Come over and work in product development." And I said, "Absolutely." And that's basically kind of where it ended up. Worked at Armalite doing product development for I think it was about 4 or 5 years,
Yeah, you were
and they
there for a
moved
good
to
bit.
Arizona. And then bumped into the guys at, I think we were leaving NRA or SHOT or something. Bumped into the LMT team, and they said, "Hey, we heard Armalite's gone, and everybody got either let go or moved. What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I got an offer to move to Arizona." They're like, "How about an offer to stay in Iowa or Illinois?" And I was like, "Sure, let's talk about it." So
Sure, yeah.
a couple months later, just basically same job, changed the shirt, and moved over, started LMT. So, and been there since about this time, 2018. So about 5 years.
So about 5 years, and before we started, I wanted to confirm what Joe's official title was, and he said, "Well, I call myself in my emails the like sales and marketing manager because the entire thing wouldn't fit."
Right, right. So I oversee the main department I oversee is the commercial sales team. That's
All right.
commercial sales, the marketing, direct dealers, distributors, customer direct, and then from there I handle the customer service. So the warranties, customer service, and everything that involves the social media. So if you like get on there and talk crap on Instagram, I'm the guy at like 4:30 a.m. probably on the toilet replying back to you just to make it so everybody knows how this works. Like there's no like I don't have the setup that you do when I'm replying to social media content. It's usually at dinner, and I have a very angry wife glaring over her cup at
Put
me.
your phone down.
Put your phone down. Will you get off your phone? So that's basically, and then from there, I manage the LE team, the LE sales team, and the small military team. So when we work with guys who don't have to go through contracts, or the big like, hey, we got we need 1,000 of these or something like that. The guys who need 10 or 15 or 30, those are the guys that I work with. It's a small LE or
So
small.
like the select group type
Yeah,
folks.
your guys who aren't in the big green, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A lot of the dudes I work with don't wear uniforms anymore. I mean, like they're still part of the Army or the Marine Corps or something like that, but they haven't worn an official uniform in 4 or 5 years. So do that.
Why is that? Because they're doing the gray man thing? Is that the idea?
There's a lot of that stuff. They're so intertwined with other units, whether it's a special operations or an international team or something like that, where it doesn't make sense, or the clandestine nature of it is just like, yeah, it's not necessarily gray man like the Jack Ryan that you would think of or something like that. It's just, we're attached to do whatever we need to do to get the job done. So if that means wearing a Columbia fishing shirt and some, combat pants, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, just blend in.
Blend in or be comfortable.
That's fair. Yeah.
Because they're in Africa is a hot place right now.
Really?
Besides Ukraine, Africa is one of the big regions we hear a lot from.
Yeah.
So besides that, I manage the OEM side. So if a company calls up LMT and says, "Hey, we can't make this, we know you can you help us out?" So I do the OEM as well.
So the list of what you don't do is probably shorter. Like you don't do accounting.
International is what I don't do.
Okay, so international, you definitely don't do the accounting side because I think you
No,
might
I
have.
avoid it, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're just I would avoid that shit too. Good Lord, dude, how do you get anything done?
That's a good question. Working with a good team is paramount.
That is such a corporate answer. Give me the real answer. How the hell do you manage?
Sticky notes? taking notes. Like I have a giant whiteboard, and there's
Yeah.
like if I come in the morning and it's like, all right, I forgot about this thing for the last 2.5 days. It's going on the whiteboard, like so I can stare at it all day until I get it done.
You know, it's funny.
Time management's
I have a
another big
giant
thing.
whiteboard in my office.
Yeah, don't eat lunch. Just sit at your desk, or grab your food, go back to your desk. Um, but it's even harder. The realistically, and I know it's a corporate answer, but having a good team and guys that you can like delegate and trust, like, hey, bro, I can't talk to these 4 dealers today about their problems or their woes of not being able to get product. I need you to handle it. You know the pitch, you know what our product is, you know how to find when it's going to be available, and then you just give them wings and let them go. But that's how we all started. I
Sure.
can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All the guys that I know in the sales industry or the marketing industry, we all kind of started somewhere low and then just grew. And there's a couple of guys I know are gonna be that way. The one guy I got with me now, Austin, he's my key account manager. Um, he came from retail sales, 9 years of counter sales in
Oh,
the firearms industry.
nine years of that?
9 years. He still does it on the weekends for fun. Like
Dude, I
he's
could barely handle like 2.
right, right. So he's still doing it on the side. I think it's maybe just to kind of feed the animal, the beast,
Yeah.
so he can go
Sure.
shooting on the weekends and stuff. But yeah, when we got good guys with you, it makes things easier. If you had to do it all by yourself, and there's a lot of times it's like, screw it. If you want it done right, you do it yourself. That is a real term too. Like that happens all the time. So you just it is a struggle, and there's a lot of times I have to apologize to people, saying, "Hey, man, sorry I didn't get back to you. Keep bothering me. Better yet, here's my cell phone number. Text me because I can answer that more readily available than like the phone at my desk. The phone at my desk, like I had a guy on Facebook or something. Oh, I tried calling Joe at LMT, and all I got is voicemail. I left him 6 messages, and I'm like, you and like 1,000 other people. Like,
That's not a great place to be.
no, and,
Not a
and,
great
it, and
place
it
to
sucks.
be.
But the thing is when you get to this position, or you do so much stuff, your email address, your phone number ends up on so many forums
Ah.
that the phone just rings. Like, and I can't tell you how many times I get a call from somebody trying to sell me a contact list, for like this show. Do you want the contact list for this show? Like, uh, NRA, there's contact lists like of
But
attendees.
they don't sell that, Joe. They
They don't
swear they
sell
don't
that.
sell it.
That information is not available. But NRA, SHOT, SOFIC, AUSA, all the big shows, whether it's international or whatever. Hey, do you want to buy these? Or people trying to sell me hotel accommodations and stuff like that because you're just on the list of
Ah,
telemarketers in the gun industry.
that's
It sucks.
gross.
It's horrible. But I try to get back to these people as timely as I can and apologize to them and basically just be honest and say, I'm busy. Here's a better way to communicate with me. You know?
So, do you think that's like 100% a product of you guys make some of the sort of top tier when it comes to semi-automatic rifles? Like, is that the
Yeah,
reason behind
that's
it?
definitely going to be part of it, and I'm
You know,
honored that.
before we get into
Yeah,
that, I want to clarify. Like, I'm not saying that to be like a nut rider. I mean, like LMT for uh, decades has been regarded as one of the
sure.
sort of premier rifle companies in the U.S.
Yeah,
And it's kind of just like accepted as that. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. No, and I'm honored that I can be in the position I am, and that's what people think. That's the perception of the brand, and very much so it is. Um, Take a look at brands like Knights Armament or LaRue, some of the bigger ones, SIG, they're all premier brands. Daniel Defense, uh, you know, all very good brands. Geisley is another good one. And LMT is up there. Do our products completely line up 100% with everybody else's? No. Sig Sauer puts out products like every third week. There's a new
Oh,
Sig Sauer.
it's more frequent than that. Holy
Yeah, and are they a great gun company? 100% they are. Now, I think where we wind up with on your question of like the traffic, if you will, yeah, we're an in-demand brand because of contracts, because of our quality, because of the design of all of our products. But we're a lot smaller than most people would think. I think as of right now, 3 shifts running, plus a Saturday, we've got about 200 employees.
Wow, that's really not that many. I mean, I was right around the time when Daniel Defense was expanding. I was
Mhm.
in what was the Black Creek.
Yeah,
That's where it's Savannah and Black Creek. So
yeah, yeah.
I was there, and holy crap, do they have a big company? You know
Mhm.
that, and I mean, I was at Sig Freedom Days, massive company,
Right, right.
and you're talking probably a quarter of the employees they
Mhm.
have.
Yeah.
That's wild that you guys are able to get anything done.
Well,
So
so
go ahead. Go
and
ahead.
then I guess for another point of comparison, I just saw news FN down in Colombia.
Yep, they're expanding.
Yeah, $18 million are investing into another 40,000 square, so another building in Liberty or someplace,
I
South
can't
Carolina.
remember.
Yeah, something like that. But then they're adding 40,000 square feet onto their current building, and then making another 400 jobs or something.
Dude, what? That's ridiculous. That's
So,
crazy. And
but
that's
you think
you
about
know what though? That's a product of big contracts. That's what
contracts.
that is.
Contracts is one. The one other thing that they mentioned was, and it kind of, as a product development guy, kind of gave me a little bit of a tickle in the nethers, is the design center of excellence is
What
what
the
they're calling it.
what the
someone
hell is
someone
that?
from the United States Army is now employed at FN, and they call it the Design Center of Excellence, but it's their new like R&D department.
Well,
They're-
let's hope that FN decides to release a gun that's not horrendously overpriced.
right, right,
I mean,
or
FN,
like
if you're listening, I'm sorry, but the Scar is not worth $4,000. It's not.
yeah, it's a cool gun. It's
It's
definitely a cool
it's
gun.
awesome. It
It's
ain't 4
disappointing
grand awesome.
it's disappointing it took 10 plus years to get a non-reciprocating charging handle. I mean, that should have been number one.
Dude, when they came out, they were like 2 grand, $2,500. I
Yeah,
was like, "Okay,
yeah.
that's cool." And then one day I realized they were $4,000. I'm like, "Where the hell do you get off
I don't know.
charging that fucking much?
I don't know.
What the hell?" I mean, it's not a bad like I'll reiterate, it's not a bad gun. It's just
No.
way too expensive.
Right, right, and it needs expansion. So, it's a product that needs more rails or systems.
It needs like KDG makes some
Yeah,
awesome stuff for that
the
platform.
third party market has a great time with the FN SCAR because the FN hasn't done anything to advance it, like,
Right.
or to give it more lethality or something.
Yeah, I don't know, man. So in regards to expensive stuff, you guys make some arguably expensive stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
What's the latest and greatest out of LMT? Like, it's impossible for me to keep up with everybody. Where are you guys at? What's new?
Right, right. So, most recently, we've been working. We've got a couple big international contracts. A couple I can't talk about yet. Um,
Oh, you
but
don't want to do the exclusive launch right here?
I've done that. So I do not as often as I used to. I used to do every month. I would do a live on our YouTube or whatever, and just it
Okay.
was a Q&A thing. And there's a couple times I would drop product on it, and then I would just like kind of just hit refresh on the website, and then just watch it go boom, 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 all the sales and stuff. Um, but I don't do that kind of thing anymore. I think it's kind of corny. But I know there's people that like, when's the next drop? When's the next drop? And then they do this at the web retailers, but no, we don't really do that. You got to get over there. That is kind of a conglomeration of a couple contracts, but basically starting with the latest SOCOM submission for the mid-range gas gun. MRGG is what they call it. So there's two
What is
different
mid-range? What is that? How do you quantify that?
mid-range is basically, so if you take a look at like I would consider the M110 as a mid-range gun.
So that for the reference, that is a 7.6251, correct?
Yes, yeah,
So like for those AR-10 for people
yeah,
that don't understand.
right, right.
Okay, go ahead.
So And SOCOM has some new bolt guns that are in like 338 Norma
Mhm.
and all that stuff. Super long range, right? The ERL or extended,
ELR.
yeah, ELR. Yep. So long range guns, and then obviously there's the ever changing world of the carbine. You know, whether it's 12.5, 14.5, you know, general purpose carbine, all that stuff. SPRs are coming back, which makes me happy.
I
I
have one
love,
sitting upstairs.
dude. I love seeing Mark 12s that are like still hot. You know, like that's the new thing. So mid range gas gun is what was their program. They basically said, all right, the M110 or the Knights SR25 is basically at its peak performance. You know, it's the 7.62 is an antiquated round. We
Mhm.
need better performance over distance. So 6.5.
Oh, I like how you phrased that. The 7.62 is on its way out. So have they got their shit together? Are we looking at like a 6.8? Are we looking at the Creedmoor? What can you
So
share that?
Creedmoor, I think Creedmoor, because of commercial availability, is next on the list.
Okay.
Um, will it be a NATO caliber that's like battle issued, um, and get a an official like NATO designation,
Right, right.
yeah, an M designation? I don't know.
Was it like
Um,
M262? I'm
something.
trying something like that is one of
Yeah,
the newer 308 rounds.
yeah, yeah. Um, they got the M318. No, 316 is one of them.
I honestly cannot keep up with that nonsense.
So there's no secret we're working on a new L129. That's the UK Brit rifle, the MOD rifle. So the L129 is kind of the Brits' answer to the M110. We needed a
I'm
308 rifle.
googling this right now.
Google it. Google it. It's an iconic looking gun. When you see it, you're going to be like, I've seen that. The L129A1, black and tan.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen this.
Yeah,
It honestly doesn't look any different than what anybody else
sure,
and it
sure.
looks like one of your guns.
Yep. So that is our gun.
Okay,
We
so it is your gun. Okay, okay. I was
Yep,
like, yeah. I
we
noticed
started
the
that
monolithic
contract.
part.
That was one of the first ones. 2009, I think 2009, 2010 was when delivery started on those, and ran for a handful of years. We still support the line, but they're like, we need something new. We need something different, and they're paying attention to what U.S. SOCOM's doing, what U.S. commercials doing, and 6.5 Creedmoor's come up, and that is the caliber for the new L129A2 as
Oh,
presented today. Longer rail system for
okay.
forward mounted optics, night vision, thermal, that sort of stuff. And again, as things are going, M-LOK.
Wow.
Yeah, M-LOK and full ambi controls. And you're gonna see it, John. I think I'm gonna call it 5 years. In five
Okay.
years, ambi will be fully industry standard. I think every company is gonna have an ambi. In 5 years.
Do you think it'll be one of those things where like every company has their own version of it?
Yes.
Or okay, so, like
Yeah. You're seeing it
with
already.
we've right now we're still in this phase of like a lot of people have the ambi controls their own way, but the rest of the controls are standardized. And
Sure.
I would love, we were talking about this with Brian Flanagan from AIM Surplus. I was talking about the standardization of pistol optic cuts. Like, holy shit, can we figure ourselves out with that?
There's so many.
Right. It's nonsense. It's
Well, and there's so
nonsense.
many within a brand. Like look at Trigicon. They've got
Right.
two different cuts. You can't run like on a pistol. You can't run an SRO. Well, sometimes you can run an SRO and an RMR on the same cut, but not always.
Right.
Um,
And then they have the RMRCC, which is a different cut
yes,
still.
yes. So
Yeah, it's nonsense. But so MLOK is the standard. Ambi is going to be
mhm,
the industry standard with different flavors of it across the
right,
board.
right.
And you're saying this new gun is going to be chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor, which
Five Creedmoor.
excites me because I've been, as soon as I realized how good it was
Mhm,
for the platform,
mhm.
I literally had a was a Ruger RPR
Yeah, great gun
and
for the money.
good gun. I bought it in 308 and I was like, wait, the intent was for me to learn fundamentals
Right.
on a 308 and like get decent with it. Well, by the time I got set up with that 6.5 Creedmoor, like a project gun had come in, and I was like, I'm not even messing with 308 anymore. I'm done.
Right.
I'm
Right.
done. So that's coming, and you've got is there anything that you are going to, for the folks that do have this actually will probably come out after GunCon.
Yeah.
This probably won't come out until after
Mhm.
GunCon. So is there stuff that you will have brought to GunCon that's interesting? So I'll give
Something new.
context while Joe thinks about this. Last year, he let my mother
That was
shoot a
awesome.
40 millimeter grenade launcher. There's
Yeah.
video of it, and
Yeah.
it's
That
yeah.
was cool.
Joe knows how to party.
Well, and that's a unique thing. So, there are very few grenade launcher manufacturers in the U.S.
That's very
And
true.
we're proud to be one of the leading manufacturers. We currently have like a 5-year contract with DoD
Oh
for
wow, I did not know
the
that. That's awesome.
M203. Yeah, so we got that one. That's a steady rolling project. That's a lot of fun. We've got our own kind of version of the M203. The one that your mom shot was the Shorty 40. So
What a sentence that was. The grenade launcher your mother shot.
yep, yep, yep.
Oh, that's
And was
good.
good. I think she was more accurate with it than you were.
Hey, we're leaving that part out.
You can't cut it. I'm sorry. But no, so that's a rail mount system, completely modular. And maybe what we'll do this year is we'll bring the pistol version. So basically, just rip that shoulder stock off and just pirate gun it.
That sounds ridiculous. I can't. Is it like a wrist breaker? Because it had some recoil. How does that feel in
It,
pistol form?
honestly, there's a couple ways to shoot it. You could like do the thumb over bore grip on the barrel because it has the rail on top. You could do that, or you could just shoot it. But honestly, two-hand it and just kind of let it come back a little bit. 44 mag is going to be a bigger kicker than that.
Oh my gosh, so very easy to handle.
Oh yeah, I'd shoot it all day, no problem. I actually did some work with some guys. Some I wish I could tell some of like the places I've been in, and like work with bigger guys. And I think that's something maybe we'll segue into is talking about some of that stuff. But worked with these one guys. They're a federal agency, and they were testing it, and they wanted to see how many rounds they could shoot and land at the same time because it's
Oh,
flight time, right?
that's volley fire, yeah.
That's volley fire. So he just hucks one up in the air, comes down a little bit lower, and then real quick does a point shoot, and they're all like pop 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 pop, 3 rounds, all about in the same, probably in the size of a truck,
Wow,
at like 100 yards.
that's
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see, but they
So for
spent a lot more
context,
time on it.
for people that don't know, the 40 millimeter grenade is the launchers are actually rifled.
Mhm.
It is essentially a combination of like a giant shotgun and a rifle barrel, like a giant slug gun is probably a
Yeah,
closer description. And I mean, it's that we were shooting chalk rounds. I
chalk.
wish we were shooting HE, but I don't have the pockets for that.
I don't
Uh,
think anybody does.
yeah, yeah. Well, the federal government does, you
Oh,
know.
they do. Yeah, they do.
So you were hinting at so some interesting places. Like, what can you share? Like, what about these fucking
Man,
wacky places you've been?
there's a lot of places that it's like one of those things in this industry because of the guys that do the work. They're like, hey man, so you can do whatever you want with this picture, and it's all like the face is blurred out, patches are blurred out. You can do whatever you want with it. You just can't say where you got it. You can't say where it came from or anything like that. I'm like, all
I
right,
see.
cool. That basically means I can't do anything with it. Yeah. Or I just wait for it to get shared by somebody else because there's a lot of times that I've seen some of the photos I got 3 years ago from I'll just say Syria or something like that, and I'm like, oh, I know that guy. Like he's all blurred out, and I'm like, yeah, I bumped
You're
into
like,
him
I
on a shop show a
recognize
couple
that.
years ago. Yeah, I remember that guy or something like that, or oh, that's a friend of this guy I know, and they were on a team together or something, and I see this stuff posted, and then people are nerding out about it, like, oh, this guy's got an LMT, and this is this a new clone build that we can have and all that stuff. And I'm like, you guys need to chill with the clone stuff. Like it's gotten to a point where it's almost unsafe for some of you people. But
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
so the clone thing, like it was cool when it was. Let's go back 10 years when pictures from um, you had pictures from sorry Desert Storm or uh, Mogadishu or something like that, or even like early GWAT. You're like, oh, this is a cool setup that these guys, these Rangers, were allowed to run, or they were issued. It's a cool setup.
Sure. Sure. So like old carry handle stuff,
Yeah,
M16 stuff.
right, right.
Yeah. Okay.
Very cool. But then it got to the point later in GWAT where these guys could basically do anything they wanted. They could. You can see over here. I've got like this is like the M4. This is what it was. But then guys are like, you know what? That stock's too small for me. I'm gonna throw a Fab Defense stock because that was like what my local gun shop had, and it has a rubber butt pad versus this one it doesn't, and it's gonna be a lot more comfortable or something. And so now all of a sudden, Fab Defense, you get in the clone groups and they show the picture and they're like, "Oh, this was used in combat. It's technically clone worthy." No,
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't think so. I don't want to take it that far, but you do see that. You do see where people are kind of stretching the limits of what was issued versus what was customized. And we got to
I see.
understand that you go back to like 2010, it was a wild west. I mean, guys could do whatever they wanted. You
So
know,
why you said that that's dangerous? You hinted at that. Why?
uh, mainly just because if you're in the clone market, if you're in the clone groups or whatever, it's not. It's just it can get out of hand and people can.
Oh, okay. I see what you're
Yeah,
saying. I thought you meant like
not
it can be
not
physically.
dangerous, not dangerous as in like politically or anything like that. It just kind of gets out of hand, and people are sensitive on the internet when it
Really?
comes to like, don't hurt my feelings about my favorite gun because I'll get real upset and damn it, I will ban you right from this group. And
Dude,
I
I
had
have
a
seen
buddy,
that. I can't imagine how much you've seen it in your world.
I had a really good friend, a friend that goes back probably, oh man, Danny and I probably go back about 15 years. And he had posted like a Vietnam clone inspired gun in one of these Facebook groups, and they kicked him out. No warning, nothing like that. And he was like, "Man, I'm not in that group no more. What happened?" So I hit up one of the admins, and some people kind of respect me for what I do. Some don't. Some don't care. And I was like, "Hey, why did that guy get kicked?" And he goes, "Clone inspired is not clone.
Oh
We don't
my
allow
gosh.
that here."
Oh my
And I
gosh.
was like, "Oh Jesus!" But I think it's changed a little bit now. I think they've relaxed, but you know, some people you got to take it with a grain of salt, and the internet's full of them. You
Wow.
know that from doing marketing and being in this industry. I hear Joe Rogan say it all the time: "Don't read the comments. Like, just don't read them." And because people are mean. Like they just get home and they're like, "What can I say today to piss somebody off or to hurt someone's feelings?"
So I actually used to be one of those people that left, just ripping comments on forums and stuff. Like I was a miserable bastard. And at the time, I was taking out all my frustration on random people on the internet,
Yeah,
whether it was kids on Call of Duty that I was saying horrendous stuff. Like, you
that's
know,
fair game though.
well, nowadays you get like banned for cursing at children. And back in like
They started
COD
it.
4, like way back in the day, we used to say absolutely horrendous stuff to kids that spoke up. It was like you hear a young kid's voice and it was shut the, just start. You cannot imagine, and I won't repeat them because I don't want I don't want it on the internet permanently. We said bad things to children, but I'm curious in your day to day travels of the sort of selling current stuff and also
Mhm.
trying to push forward. What do you think? You said ambi. What's next for you?
Wow.
Like the big shift. What do you think is next?
Man. So I'm going to tell you what it's probably going to be,
Okay.
because, what's old is always new again. I think there's going to be a push towards caseless.
Really?
I,
So
I
like a G11 might be
yeah,
resurrected.
yeah. So, and the reason why I think that is because it kind of during the so there's another program that we were competing in with a company called Textron.
Okay.
Was the NGSW NGSAR, which is Next Gen Squad Automatic Weapon or Automatic Rifle and Next Gen Squad Weapon or whatever.
Well, isn't
Um,
that what
SIG.
Sig was? Yeah, yeah, yeah. They ended up winning that.
Yep. So 6.8 caliber, and this was an interesting one. The government basically said we just need the bullet diameter to be 6.8. The load, the cartridge is up to you. It has to meet some
Ah,
certain velocity requirements, because the goal was near peer threat body armor penetration. That was one of the big ones. Like, we need to be able to pierce armor
sure.
with this rifle. 5.56 won't do it. 308 won't do it. So what's the next thing they could do? Well, and there are some interesting rounds that came out, and the one that we were working with, the Textron, was I don't have one of the rounds here, but it was a telescoping round, which was something that Eugene Stoner worked on, like
Wait. What the fuck
a
is a
telescoping
telescoping
round.
round? What is that?
So the round actually, it doesn't look like a regular cartridge. I wish I had one here to show you, but it doesn't look like a regular cartridge. It's a case, and the bullet, the projectile, seated down inside of it, and then it ejects out of the cartridge. So it's seated down in there. There's a propellant charge to initiate it into the bore, and then the main propellant charge ignites and sends it down the bore and out the barrel.
So it's like a multi-stage thing.
Kind
And
of, yeah,
when you're saying it's like seated in the case, is it sort of like a like gas seal style where it's like
kind of,
sat
yeah,
back in the case?
yeah, yeah. It's fully in there, and
Wow.
then yeah, and then
And
there's
then
the
like a
stuff like
two-stage propellant.
yeah. So I'll have to see if I can send you a picture of it eventually, or I've got some rounds.
Maybe if you got one when I come
Yeah,
by, we can
yeah,
show it
we'll
off.
we'll show you. It's very interesting, and uh, basically what that was kind of bringing back some old technology about how to increase the reliability, feed extraction, that sort of stuff.
I see.
Now, caseless is a little bit different, but I think you're going to see something, basically because of when I work with guys in the mill. Um, the big thing that they talk about is lethality. Lethality. How can we make the warfighter more lethal? And one of the projects I worked on is this unit behind me. Um, it's something we call the Spec War, and it's some guys I worked with from Spec Warcom, and it's a 12.5-inch mid gas barrel with a full rail, basically to replace, not necessarily replace, be an alternative to the URGI the Geisley does. And it's in service now. We've seen it in several different theaters. Um, and basically, it was designed specifically for night vision use. So you throw a laser on it, um, and it doesn't have the flex. It doesn't have the shift that if you barricade really hard against a car door or a brick wall or something, you're not going to see that flex. That's important because of the new standards that the U.S. Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, whoever is seeing when they're talking about these special warfare fighters.
Mhm.
They're no longer shooting the old school way of, all right, here's targets at 50, 75, 100, 300, whatever, and you just got to shoot them. They're putting everything against time and accuracy, like you would see in IPSC, like to the point that they
Huh.
have pack timers and they're scoring you, like your time versus your accuracy, and that equates to lethality. So
That is
having a more
really interesting.
accurate gun with lasers and stuff like that is better for that. Now, when we're seeing it on other scenarios, it comes down to signature reduction. You're seeing uh, better suppressors, better flash hiders, uh, IR signature, heat signature, all that stuff. They're wanting to really trim down and make sure the warfighter isn't left vulnerable somewhere to near peer adversaries who are gaining technology that is as good or better in some cases than ours. Like
You
the
know,
Russians have some
I
really
didn't
cool night.
realize, how reflective certain coatings and materials
Oh
can
man.
be in IR. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
I was, I don't have a ton of experience with night vision. I don't, but, I was with Sean Heron in Colorado at, Rocky Mountain Range Day last year,
Okay.
and we're, like, looking around just in night vision, just observing, looking around at all the cool stuff, and we look at one of the guns and it's just glowing.
Glowing.
It's just
Absolutely.
glowing, and you're like, "What?"
Or
You know, you lift up the goggles and it's just plain is it looks
yeah,
just like another gun, but
yeah.
in IR, it's just lit up.
Or your sweet hoodie that you're like, man, this is a cool like some forward control stuff or something like that, forward observation hoodie. You're like, sweet. Till you look at it under night vision, it's white. Black hoodie in the
Right, yeah, I've
daytime,
seen that, yeah.
oh, you see it on like you watch any of the ghost hunter shows from back in the day. You know, they're all wearing black hoodies until they put their night vision cameras on and everything is white now. So
Right.
that's a big thing. So all the uniforms that the military uses have to be like flame retardant, have to be IR proof, but their rifles aren't. So, when people talk to me, oh, I want to do this, I want this cool Cerakote or anodized, I want to be tan or green. I'm like, spray paint everything. Like, tape off the necessary stuff, spray paint your entire gun. Get it Cerakoted. Go to this guy, go to that guy. If you're concerned about how it looks and you value night vision and that kind of that signature, spray paint it, Cerakote it, do whatever. Because the regular anodizing doesn't matter if it's Type 3 hard coat, Type 2. Type 2 is worse, but Type 3 hard coat is what we do at LMT.
Okay.
We've done a couple runs of tan and green, um, but it always comes out wishy-washy. The colors never match up. That's why Geisley has that like disclaimer when you buy their Super Duty in green. They're like, "Hey, check this box because we're not going to sell you the damn thing until you do," saying that you don't care how it looks. Because it's good. The upper might not match the lower. The buffer tube and the trigger guard will be a different color than the upper and the lower if they do match, because they're out of like the buffer tubes are usually 6061 or trigger guards or something like that will be 6061 series or 6 series versus 7 series on the uppers and lowers. And those anodize differently. People don't
Right.
understand that.
Right,
So,
the different base materials take
exactly. Exactly.
anodization differently.
Mhm.
And then you have plastics involved and
Right.
and,
Right.
you
So,
know, like a ejection port cover and all that.
mhm.
Like, all those things are different
Yeah.
materials, and they take color differently.
So it all gets back down to that signature. And when we're fighting modern, battlefields and stuff, where it's not the U.S. used to own the night. We could run around in any country in the world with night vision on and thermal, and we were ghosts. That's not the case anymore. I mean, shit, half the Afghans in wherever now have the best night vision out there because of our exfil from.
Yeah, we gave them all that
Yeah,
stuff.
it was poorly executed and all that stuff. I'm not going to get into it, but now they have a technology they didn't before. Screw them trying to fly helicopters. The fact that they can see in the dark is a problem.
Oh, yeah, especially because they know the territory.
Yeah.
Where I have a question that
Yeah.
just hit my mind, and I
Okay.
have to know.
All right.
So you work at one of the sort of, like I said, premier rifle
Okay.
companies. What is your go-to setup? Like,
So
what does Joe have as, like, "This is my shit right here, like, you have access to anything, anything." What do you use?
can we show some guns on here? Is
Yeah,
that cool?
I'll make you big,
All right.
since this is
Hold
not
on.
live.
You stay big now, and then I'll go grab some stuff and I'll come back. How's that sound?
Okay, I'm just
It'll
gonna
be like
talk
two
about
seconds. My safe's right there.
okay. So one of the things that I think is really interesting when talking to these industry guys, as Joe is running off to find some stuff, one of the things I think is really interesting is that a lot of them because they spend so much time pushing the new and all that, they tend to settle into something that may have been awesome just a couple years prior or something like that, because they know it works. One of the biggest things that I think consumers tend to get a little bit off is that, we all look at what is the newest, the latest, the greatest, and sometimes that's not always the best answer for like every solution. Like, my go-to rifle is an affordable rifle. Like I've got a bunch behind me, and there's a few that I would not grab first. Like I'm not grabbing a 50 Beowulf before I'm grabbing a 223. It's just not a thing. It's just not a thing. And then then you start to add in suppressors and different triggers and all these stacking tolerances of parts, and it gets a little weird. Joe, are you back?
I'm back.
Joe's back.
I'm
All right,
back.
you're full screen. Let's
All
see
right.
this. If you're just listening to the show, you're gonna have to flip over and we'll try to describe it best we can. But
I'll break it down for you. So, my go-to. This is like my favorite gun, and so I have to use LMTs for work. Obviously, demos. I'm out there. I probably go to 2 demos a month, and I have my LMTs built out the way I like them. And those are really good guns. They absolutely fit every role that I would ever need, want. Um, you know,
he's about to tell us that he's got somebody else's gun.
you're gonna like this one.
I know,
Okay.
I know that lead up. I know what that is.
So
That's a Daniel defense, isn't it?
this is probably my go-to for like if I just go out to the range to play. And it's got a fresh like I said, spray paint job on it. This is a and I'll go ahead and see the serial number. You nerds,
It's going to be real hard to see. That's a Noveski. What's the serial number?
X00546. It's an old one. So
Oh,
it's an
wow,
old
that is
M4.
old. Okay.
It's got a I think this is like their early Afghan barrel or something like that. It's a 14.5 mid gas. It's got their gas block. Kind of a heavier profile.
So it's also got a quad rail.
Centurion quad rail.
What looks to be a Comp M3
Comp
or an M4.
4. Yeah, I think it's a 4.
I can't remember which. So I think M4 has the battery compartment on the top, and M3
Yeah,
has it on the side, like
yeah.
down low.
I can't tell anymore because I spray painted over it. But yeah, old Streamlight. So
Hey, they're going to be at GunCon.
yeah, I mean, but a classic good company. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
CAC broom handle, Troy front sight, like their HK style.
Dude, that's a cluster of variety right there.
Mm-hmm. Knight's rear. Some Magpul stuff. SSAE trigger from Geisley.
So I gotta ask, why the hell do you have the M4 style stock on that thing still?
Honestly,
I hate those things.
It's light and it works. There's no, I mean, besides the roughness against your shoulder. So imagine if you're wearing a jacket, it's not really a problem. Obviously I got SOT mods and Magpuls on everything else, but it's a good classic kind of like a GWAT type of build.
So you were the guy that kicked your buddy out of the clone group.
Secretly, he didn't know. Secretly. I'll show you a gun that I don't, for whatever reason, I've been looking for one. I didn't buy one back in the day when I should have.
Okay.
Now they're kind of hard to find. But
this is exciting.
Yeah. So this is the Magpul MOE from like 2012.
So you have an actual Magpul rifle.
Yeah, with the Magpul lower.
Wow,
like it's a Smith and Wesson.
Not easy to find. I remember those.
Yeah, it's a
not
Smith
easy
and Wesson,
to find.
but it's a Magpul like, and I've got some buddies at Magpul, and I was like, hey man, how do I get like the Magpul lower? They're like, you don't want it. Like it, buy the Smith and Wesson. Those were really good. He goes, for collector value, the Magpul ones are legit, but if you're gonna shoot it, just go buy the Smith and Wesson. So these are actually, I got a pair of them for my daughters. I've got a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they're both shooters when they want to be, and they're brats when they. But they've got matching black guns. This one's got an ACOG on it. The other one's got an old school EOTech, and which is neat because the EOTech cutouts are on these old Magpul. But this is a mid gas barrel, and this was really cool. This was like cutting edge for 2012 carbines. Has a 1-in-8 twist. So go back to 2010, 2011. Everything was still 1-in-9. You maybe got a 1-in-7 if you bought a Colt or an FN, but you definitely didn't get a 1-in-8. And these ones were 5R cut.
I remember that. Yeah.
And people were buying them just for the barrels. 5R cut, 1-in-8 twist. Had this like, this is like Smith & Wesson's flash hider. I don't know if it does anything really. But I really wanted this Magpul rifle. And finally, I had something fall in my lap. There's a Washington State Police Department that was basically like, all right, we're fully upgrading, going to something else. And they traded in like 90 of these. And a dealer of ours had hit us up and was like, hey, man, I heard you had said you wanted a lower. How about a complete gun? I was like, could I get 2?
So wait. You just showed a rifle with an ACOG. Does your daughter have an ACOG?
Yeah.
That's better than a lot of people's optics.
Yeah. But I really like Noveske. I think Noveske is a cool brand that they embody the spirit of Thunderfuck.
They really do. Like they really, really do.
They don't care. I mean, like Noveske doesn't go to SHOT Show. Noveske doesn't go to NRA. They don't do trade shows. They don't need to. It's an interesting concept to be at that point where your marketing can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, it's literally just like nonsense, and then here's a gun.
Yeah, and it's cool. But they still have really good performing kit. Like their rifles work.
I think that's how they get away with that sort of positioning is like if they were junk and they were putting out this weird marketing, everybody's just, what the hell is this? But because those rifles are very good, it sort of stands taller with the sort of goofy stuff.
So, yeah, when it comes down to it, I'll shoot, I shoot my LMTs because they're really good guns and they work exactly how they're supposed to. The ambi controls, like these guys don't have any ambi controls on them. I have an ambi safety on my Noveske down there, but the ambi bolt catch is a terrific feature, especially on ours because it mirrors. Whereas like some of them, the new Sig Sauer, you have to lift up to hold it open, and you push down to drop it.
Okay.
The problem with that is you have 2 different training doctrines. So let's say you're in law enforcement and you're an instructor. You have to teach 2 different ways for a left-handed guy and a right-handed guy.
Right.
So, the one guy is going to use the ping pong paddle the way he does. The other guys now have to teach go up or go down in this case. So for failures, you might have to teach a little bit different manipulation on how to clear a failure. The LMT, it's 2 ping pong paddles. So whether you're left or right-handed or switching from right-handed shooting, left-handed shooting, because of barricades or situational stuff, you don't really have to change up your manipulation of the weapon system.
That's smart.
It's all still in the same spot.
I don't have I'm a little embarrassed to say this. I don't have a lot of time behind LMT rifles. Obviously GunCon last year y'all came out, which was huge. It was awesome that you guys you decided to support. But like generally speaking, that's not a gun that like a ton of people that I know have.
No.
And all I want to do is I got to buy one from you and try it. Like I just want to try it. You know what I mean?
It's cool, and but there are guys that will, like in special operations in like law enforcement, they'll move in and out of certain departments in their agency where they'll get issued an ambi gun, but then they'll go back to having a patrol gun, and the first time you go to lock the bolt to the rear and you reach for that ambi control that's on the right side, and it's not there, it's a huge like, shit, like it's a training scar.
Well, so, one of the challenges that we run into and my buddy Josh, that's been helping me with a lot of content, has realized like there is so much variety, and I'm sure you deal with this too in your day to day. With so much variety of setup
Yeah.
that you don't necessarily settle into one particular setup, and
Right.
that kind of becomes an issue. You're right. I mean, how many different variations do you guys sell currently? Like 3,000, you know what I mean? With when it comes down to
Oh
like the
man,
minutia of it.
that's where it gets into the heartache for me, because one of my other jobs is like work with the production and scheduling team to kind of make sure that everything is flowing the way it should be for all of the sales departments,
Oh my goodness.
including international. And sometimes we'll get left over with a couple lowers or a rifle or something like that. That was like one extra from an order of 75 to, Tajikistan or something like that. And
Turducken.
Turkmenistan. Well, our fictional name for the country that holds all the blame, because the commercial sales guys, there's a healthy rivalry between commercial and the LE mill side and international. There's a line drawn in the sand, and the country that takes all the heat is Krakosia. That's from that movie with Tom Hanks where he gets stuck in the airport. You ever see that? And he's from the fictional country of Krakosia or something.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
that's the country that gets all the heat. But basically, on the international side, with a lot of these special forces units or maybe T&E rifles, they custom build everything. So
Oh my
lawful,
gosh.
ambi controls, not ambi controls. Is it Cerakote FDE? Is it Cerakote green? Is it black? We've done stuff like, hey, we need the rifle. The barrel can not be 20 inches. We need the longest barrel we can get. I've seen a 19.875 inch barrel because they couldn't have it 20.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And then you add in sights
Right.
and optics and
All the
all that.
configurations.
Oh my
There's
goodness.
hundreds, thousands of part numbers for rifles that we've made. And sometimes when we have the overruns, we call them contract overruns, we slip them to the commercial market. If they're semi-auto, we'll slip them out to the commercial market. And people are like, what is this? Where did it come from? Can't
Do you
tell
ever
you.
just slip in a select fire gun just for fun?
No, no, try not to. But I'll tell you, one of the hardest parts of my job, and I know that there's other sales guys from other companies, but we do so much full auto. I
Yeah,
have
you guys
stacks
do, yeah.
of full auto receivers I can't do anything with. Like,
Why
my
can't you do anything? You can't sell them?
can't sell them
Why?
because law enforcement's moving away from them. So we
Mm.
wait for the next full auto contract to come through, and then we shuffle those off. But sometimes it won't be the right thing. I've got like 20 full auto 45-degree selector marked receivers. So super cool gun where semi is at 45, full auto is at 90, where a traditional semi would be.
That's
And
interesting.
they're ambi. And like, who can I con into buying these things? Like, and I've slowly like gotten rid of a couple to, individuals that can procure full autos. But the hard part is right now, the ATF really kicked the industry in the taint when they updated last year their regulation on T&E rifles to law enforcement.
Oh, I didn't realize they updated
Yeah.
it.
So basically, before, if you had a law letter saying,
Oh, that's
I'm
right. I
a
remember that.
dealer, class 3, whatever, and I've got an agency that wants to demo a gun. Okay, pretty simple. You send the letter in to LMT. LMT says, "Yep, that's legit. Here's a serial number we're going to assign to it." We send that whole paperwork bundle into the ATF, and then the ATF stamps it. 7 days later, we ship you the full auto, and it's yours because you have a letter from the ATF and from the agency saying, we wanted to look at this. Well, now what they do is they call the agency and they say, hey, we're just calling to verify you wanted this. And if they don't get the guy immediately on the phone right then and there, denied.
Wow.
Yeah. Denied. And it's like, or they'll ask them, what is your purpose for this? Like, is your agency employing full auto rifles now?
What the fuck?
Yeah. I actually had a contract, or not a contract, a letter from a guy in the military. The letterhead was, Department of the Army, this group, this group, this group, or whatever. Still couldn't get him his full auto gun to test. Like
Thanks, ATF. You're really helping.
yeah, and there's no, I don't think there's any known cases of full autos being like real full autos legally obtained that have been used in a crime.
The only thing that comes to mind was that thing in, what was it, LA? The like bank shooting years and years ago, but I don't know if those were illegally acquired or not. That's to my knowledge, that's
that
the
was early
only
90s,
time.
right?
Say that again?
That was 90s?
Yeah, they were like, it was like Uzis and stuff.
Yeah. Well, back then you could get that crap from anybody, in LA. So most likely they were not like, like post sample dealers or something like
right.
that.
And even if you look at suppressors, like the amount of them used in crimes is like almost nothing.
Yeah.
Almost nothing.
A lot of people don't realize, going back to grenade launchers, people don't realize that I think in like 40 something states, grenade launchers are completely legal.
Yeah, the challenge with a grenade launcher is not acquiring the launcher. It's if you want to mess with HE or something like that, like each individual round requires a tax stamp.
Exactly, for HE. However, when it comes to 40 or even 37, the actual challenge of the whole thing is loading your own munitions. You can load smoke rounds or flares or pyrotechnics or whatever you want. The ATF does draw the line at like loading it at like explosive charges and stuff, making your own HE rounds.
Right.
But like on the 37, you can make your own firework rounds.
Wasn't that a thing a few years ago where they put the kibosh on people selling 37 millimeter rounds because that was considered legal?
Like I think the way it rolls now is they have to be in kit form, so they can't be fully loaded. You have to get the shell, the charge, and then you have to source your own like black powder or something for it.
What does that do? What is that? Who does that help? Like, what crime is it? Like, these are all just victimless crimes that they've created.
Right.
And you know what? You know what else is a victimless crime? We have to wrap up, Joe. We have to.
It does suck.
That's a victimless crime.
It is. We could talk about stuff like this for hours.
Well, at some point, we're going to have you back on the show, and we're going to have a lot of fun. But before we talk about that, we're going to talk about blackoutcoffee.com/TGC. Use the code TGC, and vertex.com. Use the code TGC. And I need you to do it. If you listen this deep into the show, you'll realize that I didn't bug you with this shit halfway through and interrupt your podcast. I didn't do that. So go help me out. Use those codes. I would appreciate it. Joe, are you going to come back on the show? Would that be right?
Absolutely. Vertex makes one of my favorite bags.
Oh, really? Which one is that?
The Gamut. I think they used to call it the Gamut EDC. No, it was the Gamut 24 or something.
They've changed names a few times since.
The bigger one, but it was the Gamut. It was the bigger one. You could fit like a laptop and a bunch of stuff in it. It was a big bag. And I use that. I know a couple of guys over at Vertex too, and I still snap a picture like whenever I'm out, like on my Instagram, of like, here's the same like 7-year-old bag out doing more shit. It's just shameless plug. I'm gonna give it to them. Their stuff holds up the best out of anything that I've seen. So Vertex is definitely Blackout Coffee. I'm sure it's good too. I'm a Red Bull drinker myself, though.
I'm just gonna flash the codes on the screen.
You know what people need to do is they need to watch all the footage from GunCon.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a cool event. I'm really looking forward to it,
dude. I know, like I said, this is gonna come out afterwards, but
go back and rewatch it.
Yeah, go watch all of the stuff that came out. I mean, we've got. This year is going to be really cool because there's a ton of stuff getting launched at GunCon or like being seen for the first time. Yeah. Dude, like, I don't know what the hell happened, but I am freaking pumped about it. And I'm very excited to have had you here on the show to sort of catch back up, at least in the public side of things. It's awesome that, somebody that set me up with the first ever custom rifle literally has my face on it. is now in a really cool company doing some really fucking amazing stuff. So Joe, thank you for
Yeah.
being here. Thanks for
Perhaps
being a part of this, bro.
perhaps we'll have to get you an LMT version now. Maybe step it up a notch.
Y'all heard that? Anybody heard that? I'm gonna look. We should build. I'm gonna come there and we should assemble it.
What would you be mad if I said I don't know what because you've got your little personal project with your overland rig or whatever, which I'm following. It's super cool. Is it going to stay that color, or are you going to wrap it, or what's going on? Because I want to
It
make
will.
I want to make a truck gun for it.
I see. So it will retain some yellow, but
Okay.
there eventually will be additional colors added to it. I just don't have that
All
nailed
right.
down yet.
Okay. All right.
A
So
truck
maybe
gun.
we'll put pause on it until because having a theme gun built for your truck, I think would be
That would be
cool.
sick, dude. That'd be fucking that'd be sick. And I'm gonna leave you guys hanging
Yeah.
on that. Goodbye.